Hey, 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 happy Sunday. I'm late, y'all. Forgive my lateness. Um, Happy Sunday. Happy April 16th. Happy birthday to me. Thank you for the texts, the telephone calls, the songs, the videos, the gifts. Um, Everyone, thank you. I was trying to keep it together, which is why I'm late because I'm over here crying. And that is not how I expected things to go. I am so grateful to be able to do what I do and that other people appreciate it. I am appreciative of every well wish, every expression of love. It's overwhelming sometimes. And so I'm Coach Yolanda, owner of Evolving Spirit Wellness. I bring meditation every Sunday at 1 o'clock on YouTube and Facebook. I have candy in my mouth, excuse me. And so, however you are joining, I am grateful for your presence. The chat is open for comments. I hope that I'm able to see them. I may post them, so be mindful of what you write. But as far as my experience has been with you, everything has always been lovely and it furthers the conversation. So today we're going to be talking about guilt. Why would I want to talk about guilt on my birthday? Because it is very fitting. Um, as we are doing this inner child healing, and I am experiencing the expansion in my life, there are particular things that I know that get in the way of me experiencing joy and goodness and love. And as much of it that is surrounding me and within me, as much love that I want to express, I want to give, I want to receive. I don't want anything in the way. And when it comes to the age and stage, developmental age and stage of 3 to 6 years of age, guilt can be a disruptor of good feelings. When children are little, when we were younger, that age is when we're starting to become more and more independent and recognizing and realizing our autonomy and our power. And because of outside influences, outside influences can make one experience guilt. And what is guilt? Guilt and shame are two different things. Shame is usually embarrassment over something you did or didn't do, or maybe something that was done to you. Guilt is usually the conversation that you have with yourself about something that you did or didn't do. However, external commentary over our actions, our behavior, our feelings, our thoughts can contribute to the energy of guilt. And when guilt is within you, when it's your thought process, when it's in your feelings, when it's motivating your behavior, it can impact the joy, the peace, and all of the other things that we want to balance in our life. And so that is why we are talking about guilt, because one of the best gifts that I can give to myself is to release myself from the guilt that may have been created oh so long ago, but I'm still experiencing even in this day. I actually started writing down all of the things that I feel guilty about. I feel guilty that I'm happy. I'm really, really happy. I've been happy for the past couple of days and I feel guilty about it. And we'll talk about that later. I feel guilty because the yard needs work and feel like I should be out there doing it and all of the other things that I feel that should have my time and attention. I feel guilty because today I was supposed to run a 5K and I wasn't ready for it. I was supposed to be powerlifting 135 pounds. I had this agreement with my brother. I don't know if I can lift 5 pounds. I am feeling guilty because I haven't asked for forgiveness with several people in my life where there's some tension. I'm feeling guilty about so many different things that I may not always know what the cause is, but I know what the feeling is. So I want to share this graphic. I posted it on my social media channels because sometimes we don't even know that what we are experiencing is guilt. We just think it's a Monday, it's a Tuesday, it's a Wednesday. I'm stressed. I'm feeling remorse, depression, anxiety. All of these things can manifest from the root of guilt. And if we don't do something about it, we could succumb to what guilt does to us. It keeps us limited and restricted. We're not experiencing joy and happiness if we're stressed and depressed and having anxiety, if we're tired all the time. Look at that, backaches, stress headaches. I think I got me a good old stress headache right now. If these things are going on, it's challenging and they get in the way of experiencing peace and freedom. This can happen so young in our life. When we see children that have tummy aches all of the time, or they're experiencing anxiety that gets misdiagnosed or not diagnosed at all. A lot of the behaviors that we see children going through, um, where we think they're misbehaving, it could be guilt. You may not have the language for what it is, but you know what it feels like. When someone makes you feel or tells you that you've done something wrong. You could be as small as 5 years old, feeling your best. And if someone comes along and interjects and says, oh, well, you didn't do this right. You don't know how to do this. You don't know how to do that. I thought you were a big girl. I thought you were a big boy. If there's always this criticism and judgment in everything that you do when you are attempting to learn how to do things, childhood is all about developing into figuring things out. Sometimes we succeed, sometimes we fail, but all of it is a lesson. And we can be so hard on children. And if your childhood experience was filled with criticism, judgment, or never being affirmed that you were doing right things, you might have been going through some of these things. You may have had a real live tummy ache. When you were in school and you're like, my tummy hurts, and they're like, ain't nothing wrong with you. Lay down for about 5 minutes and go back to class. We do that to children who are experiencing feelings of guilt, not enoughness. I didn't do that good. Well, I tried to do something and I couldn't do it. I still am traumatized at the fact that when I was 5 years old, I didn't know how to tie my shoes, and everyone else in my kindergarten class knew how to tie their shoes except for me. Tremendous guilt. I didn't know it at the time. I didn't have the language to call what it was. It was shame, but it was guilt because I couldn't do it, and therefore I thought that I wasn't smart enough to learn how to do it. And then other people are frustrated. I can't believe you're this old and you don't know how to tie your shoes. That never leaves us. So then we become adults who strive for perfectionism. Got to be perfect. Got to do it a particular way. Or we grow up into adults that have low sense of self-worth because we were not affirmed as we were learning and developing. Or we internalize everything. That over attribution to self, you think somebody else's stuff is your stuff. Oh, they don't love me because I'm not pretty enough. They don't love me because I'm not skinny enough. They don't like me because I'm not nice enough. So what do? Push myself into approval seeking or people pleasing behavior. always apologizing. There's someone in my life right now who, no matter what's going on, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, forgive me, I'm sorry. It's a noble thing to want to offer forgiveness and saying that you're sorry, but if you have not done anything, what are you sorry about? Why is that the first response or reaction to somebody else's issue? You ask them a question. Can have you thought about this? Oh no, I'm sorry, I didn't. We have to really take a look at how guilt just kind of floats in the background of our thoughts and our feelings. And so, all of those things that I listed about feeling guilty about in this day, just five, there's probably 50 more things that are being manifest and being expressed in some of these things that we see on the screen. That inner critic, boy, she just don't let up. She just don't let up. I'm telling you, the inner critic that lives within my brain, she's a harsh one. She wants things perfect. She wants things just a particular way. And I might, laugh about it and say, oh, I just have OCD. I don't have OCD. I have a problem with perfectionism because of the guilt. Sometimes when I'm feeling, oh, you're anxious. No one else is making me anxious. I'm making me anxious. I'm creating things in my head that don't even need to be there because they're getting in the way of all of the good and precious moments that I could be spending. So if that is familiar to you, you have to ask yourself, what did you do that was so horrific when you were 3, 4, 5, or 6 that you are still punishing yourself now? Next week, we're going to talk about punishment versus discipline because punishment takes your power, discipline increases your focus. And so we want to move into discipline instead of punishment. But many of us are punishing ourselves for things from our past, things from our most recent current state of being. We feel like we deserve to be punished. For many of us, that was our experience as children. You do something wrong, you got to be punished. Not you did something incorrect, you didn't know how to do it, so let me model the behavior or teach you a different way. Let me have more patience with you because you've only been in existence for 4 years, and so things may not come to you naturally. It's, oh, you dropped a cup of milk, punishment. Clean it up, punishment. You told a lie, punishment. And that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be consequences. There are always consequences. But when you have a developing brain and you're learning things for the first time, the response that you receive creates an imprint, a memory of this is what happens when I don't do things well or I don't do things right. And sometimes it's not even your fault. And when you're a child, it's never your fault. The adults in your life don't have patience, so therefore they keep you on a very short string. You don't get a lot of time to mess up or to develop or to figure things out because the adults in your life maybe didn't have the patience that they needed or that was necessary. But we get the brunt of it. We get the punishment. And sometimes we get what feels like punishment to a young brain that doesn't know that the reason you can't do these things is because they may hurt you or harm you. We internalize that as I must not be worthy of staying up past 10 o'clock because these people keep making me go to bed early. I must not be worthy of eating ice cream for breakfast because these people keep denying me the thing that I want. When you're young, you don't always interpret things as they are sent to you. And so a young brain starts to develop guilt very, very, very early, but it doesn't leave us. And then you marry that up with the criticism, the judgment of society, your loved ones, and everybody else who feels like they have something to say about who you believe yourself to be. It may not even be directed towards you, but if you belong to a particular group or a particular energy that other people keep criticizing and judging, you'll internalize that. We see that with race consciousness. Many of us internalize what we believe stereotypes. Black people are lazy. So what do? Work ourselves to death. Women are, a particular thing. So what do to combat that? We do the opposite. So people don't think that way about us. A lot of times the guilt that we internalize is not our stuff, but it's getting in the way of us living out a peace-filled, freedom-filled life. And I know that that is occurring for me even in this right now moment. As happy as I am, because I also recognize that I'm in a season of need, meaning there are a lot of things in my life that I need support with, and I feel guilty about it because I feel like I should be independent. I should be able to do for myself. I shouldn't have to have assistance and help. And so I carry that guilt. And so I have to ask myself, what crime against humanity have you done, Yolanda, that makes you think you have to hold this energy of not enoughness, of feeling guilty, of shrinking yourself, of not getting your needs met because you'd rather curl up in a ball and wither away than to ask someone for help. And so, if that is something that you feel like you've been experiencing throughout your life or in your current state of being, then today is the day that we say that we want to release that. Doesn't get released in one day, but you have to affirm and intend to do something in order for it to start to take root in your life. And so today's as good a day as any, and it would be the best gift that anyone could give me for my birthday is for you to feel better about yourself. For all of us to forgive ourselves for the things that we're holding ourselves hostage for. We learned how to do that oh so long ago. We learned how to punish ourselves so long ago that for many of us, it's our first response to any mistake that we feel that we make, no matter how big, no matter how large, no matter how big, no matter how small. We think, got to correct that behavior, so I deserve to be punished. I don't deserve nice things. Or let me get to a particular place and then I can enjoy nice things. That's that perfectionism. Perfectionism comes from feeling not enough, feeling guilty, feeling as though this huge sense of responsibility was given to you and you didn't measure up. I also am challenged with avoiding responsibility. If someone wants me to be in charge, which is interesting for an Aries, because we love to be in charge, we love to tell people what to do, we love to be leaders. But on the other side of that is, I hope no one picks me to guide them. Now that seems to be challenging and contradictory for someone who's a spiritual life coach, but it's real. It is real. There are times in my life where I know I'm avoiding responsibility because I don't want the guilt, because I've already created the guilt before I've even been given the responsibility. Oh no, I can't do that. That's too much for me to handle. And yet, if I took a look at my life, I would see that it is a series of handling my business and taking care of things. I don't always see it that way, and you might not either. But if you really, really took an examination on how you got to where you are without all of the criticism in the judgment, you would recognize and realize that you have been responsible, that you have taken care of a lot of things in your life. Probably before you were mature enough to even handle them, you were taking care of business. And so, if that is something that you feel, that you avoid responsibility because you've had too much responsibility. I just heard someone say the other day, I'm ready for somebody to take care of me. And I'm thinking to myself, you probably wouldn't let them even if they wanted to. Even if there was someone who came into our lives and said, I am going to take care of this stuff, we probably, the guilt alone would tell us, no, that's okay. I got it. I'll do it. Thank you for offering. How many of us are living a life where we don't let people love us in the way that we deserve? You may not even understand or even be consciously aware that you're doing it. There might be people who really, really, really want to love you and support you and provide you with the assistance that we all need. But guilt got you by the throat, and the only thing that comes out of your mouth is no, thank you. I can do it on my own. We were not designed to be isolated creatures. We need one another. We're connected as it is, so we might as well support one another in healthy ways. And maybe, you've had an experience where someone said that they were going to help you and they didn't. And now you feel guilty about that. I let my guard down. I let this joker in here thinking that he was going to do these things and he didn't. That's my bad. Now I got to correct that by not letting anybody else in, by not taking assistance or help from anyone, by not letting people love me. How many of us are walking around with these walls telling ourselves that, oh, I have healthy boundaries? No, you got a wall, you got a fortress, you got barbed wire, bricks, and everything else keeping you separated from the love that you deserve, from the love that we all deserve. I am ready to get rid of it. So, how do you do that? You got to confess and tell the truth that it's present. You have to be accountable for the behavior that you might be engaging in, even if you learned it from someone else or it came as a result of someone else's behavior. You have to confess and say that, okay, I'm aware that I'm doing this. I acknowledge. I am here to tell myself and anybody else who want to listen that I understand and I have that level of self-awareness that I engage in particular behaviors when I'm feeling guilty. I don't even know what the crime is. I don't even know what I did, but I still feel it. I still feel that energy that somehow I created some violation of some law that probably isn't even written, but it's real in my head. And so, therefore, I feel like I have to do these things as a form of correction or punishment for me not being enough, for me not doing what I know I should be doing. The shoulda, coulda, wouldas. It'll get you every time. I should be doing this. I could be doing that. I would be doing that. If my life looked different, I would be this. If I had these things, I would be that. If I was taller, if I was skinnier, if I was lighter, if my hair was longer, if, shoulda, coulda, woulda, then everything would be right for me. If that has you in a stronghold, or you recognize that that is your response for a lot of things, particularly if you feel like you've made a mistake and now you got to, talk about it and judge it and criticize it and say, this is why that happened because you weren't this and you're not that and you can't do this, all of the lack. If you feel as though that is your first response for things, then confess it. Acknowledge it. Become so self aware that you recognize when you're entering into some of those behaviors that were on the graphic, the people pleasing, the avoiding, the, stomach issues, where you just are so stressed because you're trying to be perfect. You're trying to be perfect. That perfection is a punishment, and the punishment takes your power. If you don't have a great self value, if you see everybody else is up here and you put yourself down there. Now, it can also manifest, guilt can also manifest as you put yourself up here and then you put everybody else down here. We shouldn't think that those who are overly confident, don't have those hidden issues. They do. We do. So it's not always the people pleaser. Sometimes it's the arrogant. It's that aggression. I feel like I gotta do this because somewhere in my mind, in my body, in my spirit, I don't feel enough. So I'm team too much. I always have to do more than is required and the things that nobody asked me to do. That is also a form and a manifestation of guilt. So it's not just those with low self esteem, it's those who, think that the sun doesn't rise until they wake up. because I push myself, because I work so hard, because I do. I'm the greatest thing that ever lived. And I got to keep that momentum because if I let it drop, the exposure of guilt is much too much for me to bear. And so you got to confess when you know you're operating from that place of guilt, even if you're, again, not consciously aware of any particular action or behavior that you may have engaged in. Hey, Miss Marissa, happy Sunday. Particularly for my fellow overeaters, sometimes that's my response. And then I feel guilty about the overeating. But my initial emotional response to not enoughness is I need a cookie. I need something to eat. I need something sweet because I'm not able to generate that for myself. I feel like I need an adrenaline rush because I can feel myself feeling lower and lower and lower because of my perceived wrongness. So you have to confess it. Confess the behavior. I know I'm an emotional eater when I'm stressed and when I'm feeling guilty about things. Confess what the feeling is. I feel not enough. I feel like I've let people down. I feel like I'm disappointing everyone. Confess what the feeling is. Confess what the thought is. No one likes me. No one loves me. Or no one is going to love me the way that I deserve to be loved. Whatever the commentary is for you, you have to get honest with it, speak it to yourself, write it down if you don't feel like you can say it out loud, but you have to be real with it. You have to be honest. You have to tell the truth. And then you can enter into that self forgiveness that so many of us are challenged with. To say, I've been punishing myself for far too long about something from my past that keeps showing up in my behavior. Someone hurt me oh so long ago. I internalized that and felt like it was my fault. I wasn't where I needed to be. I wasn't safe enough. I wasn't clear enough. I should have stayed in my room. I shouldn't have gone out that night. Whatever you are internalizing, you have to forgive yourself for that. Once you confess it and say, that's not my right mind thinking. That's that part of me that learned when I was a little person that I've got to take the hit for everything that goes wrong in the world because that's what it feels like when you're young, particularly when it comes from people that you admire and look up to. Oh, I can still remember my mother's face of disappointment when I would do things that just crushed her soul. I feel it. And of course, I internalize that as I'm just not right. I can't make mommy happy. I can't make my dad happy. I can't make anybody happy. So I guess I'm just a horrible person. That's what it feels like when you're young and you're not mature enough to understand that everyone can feel has how they want to feel. And disappointment isn't always disappointment in you. Heck, my mother could have been looking at me like, what did I do wrong? What did I not teach this child? What did I not show her? Am I not loving her enough? I don't know that. We don't know that. And so, even the disappointment, even if someone has verbalized to you that you've disappointed them, how did you know what their expectation was and what was their expectation built on? You know, if your parents or the people who supported you when you were younger had this vision for you, but you had a different vision for yourself, and somehow, because you didn't live out the vision that they had for you, you are a disappointment. You did not disappoint them. They disappointed themselves when they created an expectation, then when they didn't even consult you about it. I want you to be an athlete, and the last thing you want to be is an athlete. Or I want you to do these things. I want you to go out in the world and do these things. And you're like, that's not my dream. That's not my vision. And now your parents keep bringing it up. Remember when you used to like to? I never liked to do that. Remember when you used to like to dance? No, I remember you liked for me to do that. We still wrestle with that as adults. And it comes up in our other relationships where we don't want to disappoint the people that we love. That is very honorable. But you cannot hold yourself hostage to other people's expectations and dreams that they expect you to live out for them. I expect you to make me happy. That may not be realistic. I expect you to not come into my life and tear it apart. But the happiness part, that's on me. That's on me. And for me to expect other people to do what I can't even do for myself is wrong. I don't care who you are, because we don't know what's going on. No one knows what's going on in his brain. And I'm telling y'all, y'all don't want to know. But no one knows what's going on in my head and in my heart. No one knows what's going on in your head and in your heart. No one else has had to live the experiences that you have lived. So for anyone to look at you and say, you should make me happy, you should make me feel peace, you should do these things for me. My question is, are they doing it for themselves? Because that's a huge responsibility to put on people. And then they internalize that as guilt and start doing all number of things operating from a place that is not true in their spirit. That's not love. That's not love. Doing things for people so that they're happy is one thing. Doing things for people so that they're happy and you're miserable, that's a whole other thing. And I know we've talked about sacrifice. My mother loved that word. All that I sacrifice for y'all, I never asked you to do that. I'm grateful for it. But where did we get confused that that is equitable to love? I got to damage myself so that you are whole. I don't even like saying it, but we do it. We do it in different levels of intensity. We tear ourselves apart for the benefit of others. And then we expect a trophy, a token, some kind of recognition. And then when there isn't one, we feel guilty. I shouldn't have done that. I put myself out all these years. All my life I had to fight. All my life I did these things, hoping and expecting that I would get a return on my investment in other people. We have to take hold of our guilt so that we don't make other people responsible for our happiness, and so that we recognize the power that we have to give that to ourselves. I am so grateful that even with all of these things that I named earlier that I feel guilty about, I still know who I am. I still know that I am in control of my happiness. I still know that when it comes to me living my best life, it is up to me to do so. It is up to me to remind myself that I deserve it, even in the midst of this guilt, which is why I say today is as good as day as any to talk about it, to confess it, and to forgive ourselves. One of the reasons that I was late, and I love my people. And so I was having a conversation with a friend, and I was telling them, I'm really, really sad today. And not even really knowing why there is this level of sadness when all of this wave of love is coming my way. And I know it is what some would call survivor's guilt. It's that guilt of how dare you have a happy life when there are people that you love that are not here to share it with you. And so I'm missing my son today. He loved birthday celebrations. And so, as happy as I am, I'm also feeling guilty about the level of sadness that I'm also experiencing. And how do I balance those two? Because I'm going to feel my sadness. I'm not going to, dismiss it or tell it it's not real. It's real. I know it's real because I feel it in every part of my body. This level of sadness that seems to be in the back of the happiness, like, don't forget about me. Don't forget about me. Remember, You are missing some very key people in your life. And so the guilt of that, it's like, do I feel happy or do I feel sad? It's like, you are a magnificent creature. You can experience both of those simultaneously. You can have a good time and also not forget that there is this level of sadness and attend to it when you're able to attend to it. And so, I'm transforming that feeling of guilt into an awareness that I can experience both at the same time. I can tell you, I am so incredibly happy to be surrounded by so much love and also be incredibly sad that I'm missing someone that I love very, very deeply. We can do that. We have that ability to experience everything fully. I don't want anything that is living within my body to not have a full experience. So why would I deny one or deny the other? Because if I just sit in the sadness, then I'm going to feel guilty about not being happy. And if I just sit in the happiness, then I'm going to feel guilty about not feeling sad. But if I tell myself both of those are real for you, if I confess and say it's real for you, and forgive myself for whatever story I might be creating about the way that I feel, it's the truth and it's honest. I am as happy as I most possibly can be and also sad at the same time. And so my tears might be happy tears, they may be sad tears. I'm just grateful that there are tears because I also remember a time when I would not allow myself to express things fully, where I felt like I had to pretend. And so that list that I showed, when we are not expressing ourselves fully, we're more likely to behave in one of these ways. We're stressing ourselves out. We're depressing ourselves. We're getting tired, emotionally tired, because we're holding things in that want to be expressed. Or we're trying to be perfect. So I ain't trying to be perfect today or any other day or have high expectations of who I am or what it is that I can do. I know that I can do more than I ever imagined. And I'm grateful to be in a position where I allow myself to feel everything. And it's not damaging my self value. It makes me real, it makes me human. I don't have to avoid others and be like, I don't want nobody to know I'm sad. I don't have to engage in any of these behaviors, which are probably more likely going to create more guilt. I'm going to have more guilt if I engage in that behavior than I would if I just let it flow. And so that is what we're going to ask for as we meditate on the guilt. Now, I don't know, because I think you are all just wonderful human beings, but in those conversations that you have with yourself where your guilt lies. You know where you're not enoughness. You know where you feel like I have all of this responsibility and I'm not living up to that expectation. You know it. And perhaps maybe other people know it, but you know it at your core. You know the truth of it. And so confess it. Tell the truth about it. I'm holding on to something that's unrealistic. It's unrealistic to be able to please all people. It's unrealistic to think that you can make everyone happy. It's unrealistic to think and to feel and to behave like everything is your fault or you are responsible for everything. You can't be. You cannot be held responsible for everyone's stuff, everyone's personal development work, everyone's emotional work, everyone's spiritual work. Again, that sounds challenging coming from a spiritual life coach. But guess what? I'm not responsible for anyone's spiritual work. I'm responsible to facilitate and to support and to suggest and to inspire. But the real work lies with each and every single one of us who has decided I want to be different or I want to see a different way of living. I want my perspective and the way that I walk through life to be peaceful. I want to be free. And so I'm going to do my work. You're going to do your work. We're going to do all of this work together. And that is one of the greatest gifts as well for me to have and for you to possess. Because whether you know it or not, the work that you do for yourself, the spiritual personal development work, it's for all of us. It is for all of us. And I am so grateful that so many of you have decided that you want to do this work for yourself and for the collective consciousness. And so, coming into this moment, not the past, not the future, but this beautiful moment that we have been given, do you know how precious it is that we have been given this moment? Whether you are watching live or on the replay, it is still the same moment, this moment of peace that we can enter into together, where I see you, I hear you as you are, you see me, you hear me as I am, all that I am, not any one particular way of being that makes it comfortable for you or comfortable for me, but all that is. This incredible ball of energy and emotions and thoughts and all of the things that we have experienced in our life that have never left us. We are focusing on all of it in this moment. And as we take some deep breaths and we are focusing on all of the experiences of our life, we want to pull some things out. We want to pull some feelings of guilt, those things, those secret things that sometimes we hold in our heart and that we hold in our head that contribute to the overthinking, the overdoing, sometimes pushing ourselves into overwhelm, those things that rest on our shoulders. So drop your shoulders if you can. Those things that are felt in your back. Any one of us with back issues, even if it was because of an accident or something else, we want to release that because sometimes we carry guilt in our back, the muscles of our back, the fibers of our back. Sometimes guilt can also be held in our liver, in our kidneys, because our liver and our kidneys are filtering organs, filtering out things. And sometimes we hold on to stuff and we don't release it and we don't let it go. And it starts to build, those toxins start to build in our body and contribute to illnesses. And so, all of that, we want to pull those things out and confess them in our heart. And to the God of your understanding. Can you think of a better place to lay some burdens down than at the proverbial feet of the God of your understanding, the spirit, the universe, all of the names that you may identify as your connection to something outside of you, but that is also within you that you cannot name, you cannot touch, but you feel it and you know that it is real. Can you imagine any other place to confess and say, I know I am holding on to some thoughts, to some feelings, and yes, even to some behaviors that are not in alignment with the me that I know myself to be and the me that I am becoming? I know that these thoughts, these feelings, these behaviors, they seem to multiply because I'm focusing all of my attention and energy on what I'm not doing or what I did do that I think is wrong. I think I broke some law. I think I hurt someone. I think I didn't do enough of something. I didn't realize someone else's dream. There is some disappointment that has turned into guilt. And I feel bad about it. And I'm here to confess it and pull it out and tease it out. I recognize even those things that I was not the creator of. Perhaps it started oh so long ago in my family. But I see this habitual pattern of behavior in my generational line. And I am carrying the burden of the guilt. I didn't do what my mother wanted me to do and what her mother wanted her to do, and so on and so forth. And I feel like I've let my tribe down. I feel like I've let my elders down. I feel like I've let the younger generation down. I feel like I let myself down. I should be doing more. And I'm here to confess the truth that maybe I did. Maybe I had an agreement with someone and I didn't honor that agreement. Maybe people were counting on you and you didn't step up in the way that you would have liked to step up. Maybe you left some people way too early or you stayed way too long. You just didn't honor the original agreement. No one communicated, no one talked about it. It just happened. Maybe you stole something when you were a kid and you still feel guilty about it now. So you've turned into a hoarder and you just keep everything because you know what it feels like to steal or someone has stolen something from you. There could be a number of things in your consciousness in this moment that have a hold on you and that keep you and prevent you from feeling free. Deadlines, obligations, responsibilities that sometimes feel as though it exceeds your capability and you feel guilty about it. I wish I could be more for my children. I wish I could be more for my partner. I wish I could be more on the job. I wish I could be more in my community. I wish, the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. It's got you. It's got you so hard that it's clouding your judgment and keeping you from the truth, and it's making it preventable from you forgiving yourself. Oftentimes, when we hear those words forgive, we think it means forget. It doesn't. It means release and give yourself something greater than the guilt, than the shame, than the regret, or anything else that is keeping you in bondage. That is not what the God of your understanding wants for you. There is absolutely no way that you were created with all of these billions and billions of cells in your body to have guilt be a part of that magnificent creation. Knowing full well that guilt and accountability are two separate energies. Accountability means I have the ability to account for the experiences that come in my life. I am fully aware of my power. Guilt says you ain't got no power because if you did, you would have did it right the first time and you wouldn't be feeling the way that you're feeling. Two separate things. We cannot get to accountability if we cannot get to forgiveness. If you can't see yourself as able, how are you going to be accountable? How are you going to have and hold and uphold responsibility if you don't see yourself as able and capable? And if you're not forgiving yourself, then it's getting in the way. If you're holding on to guilt, then it's getting in the way. And you got to confess that thing and tell the truth. If you were supposed to do something and you didn't do it, then tell the truth. Start with forgiving yourself. If you need to seek forgiveness of others, you can't predict what their response is going to be, but you can plant the seed that says, please forgive me. I didn't honor our agreement. You were counting on me. And I don't have an excuse to give you that is going to equate and make it feel better for you. So I'm not even going to offer one up. I am just simply going to say, please forgive me if you find it in your heart to be able to do so. Forgive yourself and then ask. Even if it's not reciprocated, even if the other party does not say yes, you still have to have enough within you to say, I've done all that I can do, and I have to be accountable and responsible for the consequences. Not every act or request for forgiveness is going to end in all things being well. That may be part of the consequence. You still have to learn, how do I live with that? I did what I can do. I did my best. I confessed it. I've asked for forgiveness. If it's not given, you still have to live. You still have to breathe. You still have to motivate and inspire yourself to continue to seek peace, freedom, and joy, even if the air is not clear between you and whomever you may have had that agreement with. But you cannot be out here asking for things that you are not willing to give. So if you want people to forgive you, where's the forgiveness in your heart for other people? Whether they have sought your forgiveness or not, it goes both ways. That's a conversation for another time. We're talking about our own personal guilt that we live with on a day to day basis that pushes us into overwhelming stress that we are releasing in this right now moment by confessing and forgiving ourselves. And just imagine that stuff being pulled out of your body, being pulled out of your mind, no longer taking hold and getting in the way so that you see things differently. Do you know that the God of your understanding wants you to see things in a clear and balanced and loving way? You can't do that if you're not loving yourself. You can't do that if you're not forgiving yourself. And you can't do that if guilt has a stronghold on you, where your responses and your human interactions are peppered and seasoned with not enoughness. You can't show up as your full self when you're quietly judging and criticizing yourself internally. You got to learn how to balance and cleanse that energy. And to tell the truth, I may not be able to do this job, but I'm going to give it my best shot. You got to tell the truth. And so, all of those things that we are confessing, I have to tell the truth. I am immensely happy and also incredibly sad. I am in a season of needing assistance in a great way, and I'm also still providing what I can wherever I can. That yard is going to get done when it gets done, and I'm not going to feel bad about it. It's not hurting or harming anyone. And I have to release the guilt that makes me feel like the worst neighbor on the block. There are other things that need my time and attention. I'm releasing myself from the 5K that I did not run this morning because guess what? Even if I had attempted, somebody probably would have been putting me on a stretcher and taking me somewhere. So I'm forgiving myself from the guilt that I have that I wasn't in a position to do what I agreed to do. Now I can renegotiate with myself and say, hey, give yourself another month, give yourself another 2 months. Or how about this? Even if you didn't run the 5K, you still supported the organization. Let it be that. I'm going to forgive myself for not being in a position where I am lifting up 135 pounds. I'm carrying more than that when I'm walking. So I'm going to forgive myself and recommit and renegotiate in a way that is healthy for me and everyone involved. And in those experiences in my life where I know that the air is not clear, the relationships that have been damaged, I'm going to do my best to clean those up. I don't know what the response is going to be. I could get hung up on the phone. I could be told, I don't mess with you like that anymore. That's a consequence that I'm willing to face. But I don't want to live with the guilt of not knowing, of not having the conversation, of not cleaning things out. Doesn't mean we got to be the best of friends, but at the very least, I need to release this guilt and tell myself I didn't do anything wrong, but I was operating from a place of not enoughness in my response in those relationships. I absolutely see that, confess it, and recognize it to be true because that's what mature adults do. Now, when you're 3, 4, 5, 6, you don't know how to do that unless somebody shows you and demonstrates this is how you forgive yourself. This is how you ask for forgiveness. Most of the time, we do something wrong when we're little. Somebody grabs us by the hand and says, "Tell Miss So and so sorry." We don't even know why, because our brains are not mature enough, but that imprint stays. And so now, as responsible adults, well, somewhat responsible adults, we have the ability to do it differently. Own up to your stuff. Don't be out here like a big toddler creating all kind of confusion and saying, I don't have to do this and I don't have to do that. We have to be clear. We have to be true. We have to be honest. If that's what you choose for yourself. And in this right now moment, I believe that that is what we are choosing to elevate our consciousness. Interactions with one another that are built upon trust and honesty, so no one has to carry around guilt and shame and regret. It gets in the way of us loving one another. And all I want to do is love. I don't know about y'all, but I came here to love, created as love. And so, what else do I want to do but love? I want it. I need it. It's the only thing that keeps me breathing, the only thing that keeps me alive. So, that is the place that I want to operate from. I can't do that if I'm not loving myself based upon the things that I'm thinking and the criticism that I'm giving myself. And the same is true for you. We can't, it gets in the way. I don't have time for it. But boy, do we devote a lot of time to it. We devote a lot of time to punishment. And we're going to talk about that next week, how we have been programmed and created and designed and formed under this energy of everything has to have a punishment. And sometimes the punishment is not equitable to the behavior. And sometimes the behavior is nothing more than communication. I'm showing you what I feel because I may not be able to articulate it. But somehow we've gotten to a place where we think everything's got to have a punishment because we think that's how we correct things. Discipline and focus and intention and ritual and habit is how you change things. I can remember going back to running. I was beating myself up for not going on the treadmill every day for an hour, 2 hours. And I said this to one of my spiritual mamas, and she said, "Why does it have to be the treadmill? Why can't you just go outside and walk?" I was like, I don't know. I said, because I keep telling myself it's got to be on that treadmill. And she's like, but why? Do you think you're going to get bonus points if you do it on the treadmill versus going outside where you are liable to feel better with the fresh air and the nature? And I was like, you know what? You're right. She was like, so stop telling yourself that everything has to come from you being beat up and toe up and sweating and slamming your feet down on this apparatus. How about you could get the same results by going outside, and you know you're going to be happier in that environment. I was like, you are absolutely right. She was like, that is how you renegotiate with yourself in a loving way. It's not that you gave up on the goal. The goal is to walk. The goal was to walk for an hour. She's like, go outside and walk for an hour. You ain't got to beat yourself up to do it. You don't get any gold stars because you've torn your body up to do something, or because you suffered to do something. You know, I hate to tell you, there is no gold ribbon at the end of your life that says, you know what, you suffered for about 70% of your life. Here's a gold ribbon for you. No one's going to care. I guarantee you, when stories are told about your life, no one's going to get up and be like, let's list all of the things that Yolanda suffered. You know, she, climbed a mountain. I mean, I'm not saying they're not great things to do, but it doesn't get you a gold star if you suffer. If you have a vision and you have a goal, find a way to execute it without executing yourself, without damaging yourself. And then also feeling guilty if you don't do it in that way. You will still get it done. I believe that you will because it's in you. That vision, that goal, that thing is in you. But take a look at the way that you're going about it. And maybe somewhere in your life you learned that the only way to execute a vision or a goal is to beat myself up to do it. It's to criticize myself into it. It's to judge myself into it. I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to see people come into their vision surrounded by love. Let me tell you, it's a whole different experience. I know in my life, I've had things done. And as a birth doula, this is why I do what I do. I've seen and I've had the experience of bringing a child into this world under the worst conditions. Wasn't no love in that room, except for the people that were my people, but the medical professionals, the environment wasn't loving at all. And I've seen and felt the difference when it's a loving environment, when it's a supportive environment. I'm telling you, we've got to learn how to do things in love instead of suffering. Marissa said, "Ooh, listen, I know I used to be team too much. If it ain't rough and it ain't hard and you ain't screaming, crying, and in pain, then it ain't worth it." No. For those of y'all who want to live that soft life, we got to learn how to do that because nobody taught us. I know my mother didn't. That woman had 3 jobs for no good reason. But based upon who she was, only having one job was not enough. She got to have 3. I got too much time on her hands, and that means I need to get another job. I am also team soft life. When this body is laid to rest, it is not going to be looking like a wrung out washcloth. It is going to be looking just like it looks today. Refreshed and happy and not carrying the suffering and the burdens and the guilt and all of that. When I am done with this body, I want to return it in the same or somewhat alike condition that I received it, just like a baby. I want my skin soft. I don't want no stress lines. I don't want any more organs having to be removed from my body because I've, contributed to my own illness. I want to be like a baby, at peace and surrounded by love, because that is how we deserve to come into life. That is how we deserve to leave this life. But what we do in the middle of those 2 experiences is up to us. And so I am grateful. Thank you for spending my birthday with me, releasing guilt. And the way that we can continue to do that is write it down. What's going on? What's coming up for you? What are you carrying? What are you feeling guilty about? Or what I say to myself because, I'm dramatic. What horrific thing, Yolanda, have you done that deserves this level of punishment? What horrific thing? What crime did you commit? It? Are you going to be on the first 48? Like, is it so bad? Or are you creating this huge mountain out of nothing because you learned how to do that? I learned how to do it, but I'm unlearning it. And I hope that you too. And confess, what you did or what you think you did. And forgive yourself for it. And then offer that up. It may not be received. Thank you. Thank you, honey. It may not be received in the way that you would like for it, but you will release it from your spirit. I'm telling you, it does wonders when you clear it for yourself and say, I did all that I could humanly possibly do, and I leave the rest up to the spirits. I leave the rest up to the universe. If this energy, if this connection is supposed to be restored and cleansed and healed, I leave it up to them. I leave it up to, hey, Erica, I am going to enjoy the rest of my day. And I hope you do too. I hope this entire week we really take a look at when guilt is, showing up. I'm going to again post this on all of my socials, but do your own research around guilt to see you may not even remember what you feel guilty about, But if you are experiencing some of these things emotionally, mentally, physically, then there might be an energy, a root of guilt somewhere in there where not enoughness, lack, and wrongness is playing in the background. That's not my background music. I want something light and loving and fun to be playing in the background at all times in my brain. And I hope the same is true for you. Thank you so much for the loving words. It really, really touches my spirit. I'm going to deal with my own guilt in my own way, and I know that we all will too. But please release it with some confession and some forgiveness, and then take accountability. Accountability doesn't have to hurt. As a matter of fact, accountability should empower you because we are so dynamic. We have the ability to do great things, amazing things, wonderful things. And I would love to hear about those wonderful, amazing things. And so my office hours are still up. She's a busy girl, but she still has time to chat with whomever would like to chat about whatever it's about. It doesn't have to be a particular topic. It could just be, hey girl, how you doing? My calendar is on my website. You can go there, book some time, an hour at a time. I would love, love, love to speak to you guys. I have a gift coming. I wanted to have it ready for today, but I've been doing so many other things. So hold out until before the end of this month. There will be a gift for all of you because I love y'all so much. I really, really do. And I'm so thankful. Oh, hey, another Erica. Oh, thank you so much for those kind words. Hey, my love. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I listen. I'm going to start crying again. I am the happiest girl in the world because I really am surrounded by some really loving, loving people. You don't have to express your love, but every single time you do, it not only does something to the person that receives it, it does something to all of us. So please never, 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 never give up an opportunity to express love if you can. I don't care if it's appropriately. I don't care if it's a stranger. I don't care if it's the people you know. And please let people know that love is present and it's real because we know what it feels like when we tell ourselves it's absent. And so I thank you for loving me. I love you and have an enjoyable rest of my birthday. If you want to give me any gift, have a good time today on me. Love y'all. See y'all next week.